unscripted, it's been a while since I've done an unscripted that isn't an MVP of the race video, but given some discussions I've been seeing take place within the Formula One space as of late, I thought it would be nice to throw my hat into the conversation. And that's the conversation about Aston Martin's future and who they should build around going forward. Now, for the past few months, I have seen two drivers get brought up by prominent creators in terms of a potential switch to Aston Martin, those being Max Verstappen and George Russell. And trust me, I see the vision, but the thing is, at least in the case of George, I don't see it as a realistic move. I think it is something he might be interested in, but I think the allure of still being team leader at Merc is a greater draw. And for Max Verstappen, I could sooner see him leaving Formula One than leaving Red Bull to go to an Aston Martin project personally. But in terms of a driver that I think the team should target going forward, and I'm not saying this means that they're gonna get this driver, but given how he's performed this year, given the uncertainty around his future, I think that Aston Martin should pursue Isack Hadjar. Let me cook. So I think Isack Hadjar could be Aston's guy going forward. And I know what you're thinking, he's a Red Bull driver. How could he ever get pried away from that camp? I don't particularly think it's impossible, man. All right, let me explain. So Isack came out recently and told the world that he doesn't think he's ready to be promoted to the top Red Bull seat at the moment. And I think the uncertainty of Red Bull as a team in terms of driving for them, given what's happened to Lawson and Tsunoda, I think that uncertainty is something Aston could capitalize on if they were to try and approach Hadjar for a seat. Now, the intrinsic fear Hadjar has of being promoted to the top team and flopping and his career sinking as a result of that could be something that Aston uses to pry him away from the Red Bull camp. Another thing I was brainstorming is that Aston really needs a driver to lead them in a post-Alonso era. When Fernando Alonso hangs up the gloves, they're gonna need a top guy to lead their operation, which is why the Russell and Verstappen names, those have been thrown out in terms of potential leaders of Aston Martin. But I think Isack Hadjar could also be a future leader of Aston Martin, and it's easy to say it's too soon because he's just a rookie and we haven't seen enough of him yet. But I think the small sample size we've seen of Hadjar driving that Minardi shows glimpses of him eventually becoming a great of this sport. And given his fear of driving for the Red Bull top team, because here's another thing, folks. You look at all the other rookies, they kind of have their own thing going on for them in terms of their path. I don't think they're as uncertain about their path the way Hadjar is. Antonelli and Merck, match made in heaven. I think Antonelli is quite comfortable where he is. I think Behrman is quite comfortable at Haas, knowing that a Ferrari seat is waiting in the wings for him. I think Bortoleto is very comfortable given he's got two choices in front of him. He can either stick with the Audi Works program or pray that McLaren call him up if Norris and Piastri implode. Lawson's not really looking too good right now, but I think Lawson's biggest aim right now is to reprove himself to Red Bull. And Colapinto and Alpine seem to be something that will be a long-term thing. But Hadjar could be a long-term thing for Aston Martin, man. I really think so. Because obviously if Max Verstappen leaves, Hadjar is probably going to be the guy they call on to replace him. But if Hadjar is afraid of driving for Red Bull, maybe he won't be afraid of driving for Aston Martin. He's young, you can lock him down long term and you can watch him develop. You could put him on them 2+1 deals. Yeah? An Isack Hadjar 2+1 deal in 2026. So it runs till the end of 2027, and then you evaluate and choose if you keep him for a third year. That would go hard. Hadjar would be in a situation where he's driving with Alonso and he's got Adrian Newey building his car. I just really think it's a situation that he could thrive in, man. I really do. He's got Newey on the aero side. Alonso has the experienced vet to train him up. Aston Martin are the works team for Honda, so that's exclusive to the team. It's a place I think the right young driver could go and build an empire at. And given what's going on with Stroll right now, Stroll's never struck me as a guy that could lead a team like that. If he was, he still hasn't proven it after all these years in Formula One. The Stroll experiment has to end at some point, and I think that Hadjar, I really think Hadjar could be that guy, man. I really do. So yeah, this is just a random tangent I decided to go off on. It's not really that structured a video. It's after 1. It's 1 a.m. right now, and I'm just here rambling because I want to know what you guys think of this plan. I think Isack Hadjar should be a driver on the Aston Martin radar, and I don't think that means they're just gonna get him. I definitely think even if Hadjar wants to go to Red Bull, I feel like it would take a lot to pry him out of that Red Bull camp. I feel like his buyout I feel like Red Bull are the type of people to skyrocket Hadjar's buyout clause and all of that stuff because they don't necessarily want him to go. I don't know, man. Question is, how bad do Red Bull want Hadjar? Given the rise of Lindblad, maybe they can see Hadjar as a guy that they're willing to lose. That's another thing, you know. Would Red Bull be open to losing Hadjar if it means they could gain Lindblad? So let's say Hadjar wants to go to Aston Martin. Do Red Bull fight to keep Hadjar? Or do they just let him go and then put Lindblad in the minority with another year of Lawson? And they use Lawson as the benchmark. Would they be willing to give up Hadjar because Lindblad is on the rise? I think that's another thing that could work in Hadjar's favor in terms of jumping ship. I think if Red Bull are willing to lose him for Lindblad, then it would make his decision a lot easier. So there's another thing. There's another aspect I didn't even think about. Would Red Bull have to be in a position where they have to choose between Lindblad and Hadjar? Or just gonna try and push both up? You know, if Max leaves and they get tired of Tsunoda, is their future a Hadjar Lindblad lineup? Does Hadjar want to be a part of that? Does Hadjar trust the Red Bull powertrains with Ford more than he trusts a Newey built Honda engine powered race team with Lawrence Stroll running the operations financially, the Aramco bag, you know, the Alonso mentorship? Does he see that as a better program for him? Regardless of what Hadjar thinks, and I'm going to close it here because I think I've spoken long enough. Regardless of what Hadjar thinks, I think Aston Martin should seriously consider signing him. They can try and fail, but I think it's definitely worth trying. And I think if they were to get Hadjar, I could genuinely see Hadjar building an empire at Aston Martin. But those are just my 2 cents on the matter. I'd love to hear what you guys think, who you think the future of Aston Martin should be. I think Max is risky. I don't think George would leave Mercedes, but Isack Hadjar, I think he could be the guy.